I especially want to welcome fire service leaders from throughout Jefferson County and our Metro Safe team members and the Louisville Professional Firefighters Local Number 345. One of the really enjoyable parts of being mayor is that I get to serve alongside our firefighters, close up and personal sometimes, and get them to see them doing their jobs and working to save lives and property in that order at homes and businesses and historic buildings, churches, industrial sites, and wherever they're needed. And it's really a thing of beauty to see a professional firefighting team going after a fire in kind of a real organized, almost organized chaos, but it's organized because it is chaotic when you don't know where a fire is going to go. But to see how these men and women go about taking care of business really gives you a great appreciation for the public service that they do. Firefighters also hold each other to a really high standard because they know that their lives and the lives of our residents depend on the skills, judgment, and professionalism of our firefighters. They also know that early notification and quick response from the closest unit of well-trained and well-equipped firefighters significantly improves their efforts to save lives and preserve property. So mindful of that, leaders in the Louisville Fire Department and suburban Jefferson County Fire Departments have for several years been discussing a plan for cross-boundary, closest unit response and automatic aid. And while that work was stalled by COVID-19 and the impact of the pandemic, local fire leaders quickly resumed discussions once the COVID restrictions were lifted. And in April of 2021, chiefs established a committee of representatives from the Louisville Fire District and several Jefferson County Fire Departments to begin work on a standard agreement and formal procedure for aid between bordering districts. The Automatic Aid Committee understood that cooperation between departments was critical to further improve service and keep the entire community safe. Together, they worked to identify resources and operational objectives in responding to emergencies where a unit from a neighboring fire department can provide the closest first unit response. The committee also worked to establish a response buffer zone between the Urban Services District, which is Louisville Fire Department, and suburban fire districts. That buffer zone is where fire apparatus from the bordering department will now be automatically dispatched. You'll see that illustrated on the screens behind us. Our MetroSafe team is also always looking for new and progressive ways to improve emergency services. Their team supported the committee efforts and have now loaded the buffer zones into a new computer-aided dispatch system. So I'm happy to announce that beginning today, July 1st, when MetroSafe receives a report of a structure fire, motor vehicular accident with rescue or fire, or a high-priority medical incident in the established buffer zone of the Urban Services District and the Suburban Fire District jurisdictional lines, a response from the home department and one company from the bordering department shall be dispatched without delay. That's big news. All right. The Automatic Aid Agreement, also known as the +1 Closest Unit Response, marks a new era for the Louisville Fire Department, the Shively Fire Department, and all 10 Jefferson County Fire Departments. I want to thank Chief Mucker from Shively. They've been part of an agreement with us for several years. I want to thank, obviously, all the Jefferson County Fire Department leadership for doing this. EMS, the MetroSafe team, have all been very important in terms of getting this done. I also want to thank Chief Gregory, who is here from the Anchorage Middletown Fire District. So it really took a team effort to do this, and as I said, it's been in discussion for quite some time, but it's really wonderful to see everybody come together for the benefit of our entire community. So we got a great firefighting team throughout Louisville, whether it's LFD or a suburban team, and I'm really happy to see the cooperation and collaboration and commitment to continue improving service throughout the Automatic Aid Agreement, and that, again, is being implemented today. And I know that the steps to get here were not easy, but they were really important to improve our ability to save lives and preserve property. So on behalf of the city, I want to thank every Louisville and Jefferson County firefighter and all of our first responders for their service, their sacrifice, and the great work that they do 24/7. So now let's hear from some of them. First up will be Chief Gregory Frederick of the Louisville Division of Fire. Chief?
I had some remarks prepared, but I think the mayor covered very well what this agreement is about, what this system is going to be about. And really what I want to do is take an opportunity to thank everybody that was involved in this. It's been a long process over a couple of years trying to put this all together. We had assistance from the county attorney's office, from the mayor's office, some of the Metro Council members that had input on it. And the chiefs really came together, regardless of what patch you have on your sleeve. We all want the same thing for the community. We want to give you the best service that we can. And I think this agreement and this program will help with that. And it's a work in progress that we're going to continue to tweak it as we go into the future and see things that we can do better. But as everything that we try to do, we're always trying to improve on the service that we provide. So I want to thank everybody that was involved in it. Thank all the chiefs here today, Local 345 leadership for their help with it as well. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate you. We've got a tremendous cadre of suburban firefighters with us throughout the community. And joining us here today is Colonel Adam Jones, the Fire Chief for Butchell Fire and Director of Jefferson County Fire Chiefs. Chief?
I would echo what Chief Frederick said. The mayor covered the points for the most part of that, and I'll just continue to say it was an amazing collaborative effort. There's 12 districts when you count in Louisville and Shively and the 10 in Jefferson County, and to get us all on the same page for the greater good of the community and the service on the street is really the goal of this as we started out, and now we're here, and it's going to continue to be a work in progress, and we'll continue to excel for the community.
All right, so how's all that's going to work together now? So Lieutenant Colonel Bruce Himes, a distinguished member of the Louisville Fire Department, is also the Automatic Aid Committee member, so he'll tell us a little bit more about the agreement.
Okay, so things have, the mayor had already touched on a few things that we need to address as a committee to work together with Suburban and Louisville Fire and Shively. As a whole, our number one goal is safety, life safety, and property preservation. So each department has a few differences that they like to operate on, and that's part of our task to overcome those. And together, I will say there was a positive attitude. It was a team approach that we work together and come to common ground on terminology, on some of our apparatus placement, and a few details on fireground functions. So as a whole, it was a great experience to work together. And I'd like to thank Chief Frederick, the Suburban Chiefs, Chief Mucker, Mayor, for the leadership they give and keep us progressing forward. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bruce. The agreement has already been signed and is in place, so we're in good shape on that, and we're ready to roll here, effective July 1st. So, folks, this is good government in action, so it's really wonderful to see. With that, we're happy to take any questions.
Was there a specific incident that made you guys think we really have to get this in place as soon as possible? A specific fire or a specific wreck?
Chief, you want to respond to that?
First of all, to clarify, we've had a mutual aid agreement with all the county departments, Louisville Fire and Shively, and the Airport Fire Department since 2004. So anytime anybody calls and requests assistance, it's always been given. This is a little different in the fact that it is an automatic dispatch without approval from a chief officer or incident commander. We have had several incidents that were in bordering areas. I know specifically to us, several incidents were on the border of Louisville Fire and St. Matthews that brought this to our attention as well. But there's common incidents across the whole the county that really made us take a look at, what are we doing, and just the way that the borders are kind of cut up in some areas. It just made sense to try to work towards this.
Was one of those the fire at what used to be Super Chefs? It was a big fire in the winter. Is that the one you're speaking of?
Yeah, that was in 2000, I believe 2016.
Yeah.
And it was a significant fire. When we arrived on scene, it was heavily damaged. And that was one of the incidents that kind of triggered looking at this, the response.
Anybody else?
Within just the last couple of years too, you mentioned St. Matthews is the area. There was the big fire at the strip mall where Scheller's Bikes is. When you're looking at these kind of situations, is this to improve response time? Is it to improve organization? What are the main things that are going to change?
I think it improves all of that. Response time, if you have a unit that's closer. And the biggest issue was making sure we're all on the same page. We're using the same terminology and incident command system and all that, which we routinely do. But I think, the way the system has been designed for many, many years is your dispatch is based on the resources you have. So Louisville Fire we had our resources, and then Suburban Fire had theirs in a separate layer of the CAD system. So it wasn't that we didn't want other fire departments responding. It was just that our system is set up to utilize our units, and theirs was the same. This is an interface in between those systems that will get the home department's response, as the mayor said. And then in addition to that, if there's a unit across the border that is closer, they'll go as well. So that's kind of the design of it.
In that case, then, are you looking at where you might have some fires that get responded to twice that don't necessarily need 2 units?
Initially, there will probably be some redundancy until we're able to work out some of the bugs. As I said, it's a work in progress, and we're going to continue to monitor it. One of the things that we put in the agreement is that there will be a review committee that will look at the incidents that happen quarterly or whatever, and be able to say, okay, this is something we need to adjust. Maybe it's a boundary that needs to move, another street over. Maybe it's the type of runs we're making. So all those things are going to be adjusted as needed.
Clarify on this map, what these buffer zones are?
What you're seeing in the magenta or purple, that is Louisville Fire going out. And then what you're seeing in the light blue area is Suburban Fire coming in. And there's some anomalies based on, like for instance, the Oxmoor area. We didn't project out from the Oxmoor, even though that's in our district. So that area does not have a buffer zone around it, the same as Audubon Park and Parkway Village for Camp Taylor. So we decided on a half mile either side of the existing urban service district border, and that's how we come up with it.
Can you describe what you mean by coming in and going out? So that line that's going through, are you saying it's 0.5 this way, 0.5 that way? Or
It's 0.5 on either side of the line. So what'll happen is, for instance, if we get a report of a structure fire on Grade Lane, we'll send the normal Louisville Fire response. But if Okalona's unit that's close to that is available, they will respond as well. So that's an example of them coming in. Same if there was a fire in Butyl on 6 Mile Lane, they're going to get their normal response from the units that would respond there, but as well, if Engine 8 on Hikes Lane is available, they will respond as well.
And I know some of these discussions started in pretty heavily started in 2019, so COVID was mentioned as the reason it took a little while to get here, but can you explain other reasons of why it took a while?
Well, basically what we did was looked at our existing mutual aid agreement and then researched the things that other departments across the country have in their automatic aid agreements. And it was a lot of meetings and discussions and research and things and seeing what was MetroSafe able to do with the CAD system, a lot of those things. And it was just a long process because it wasn't strictly the focus. I mean, we have other things that we're dealing with, including, response to COVID and some of the other issues that we've had.
All of the pink is an extra buffer outside of Louisville's typical district, and then the blue is that buffer coming from.
Yes, that's correct. And well, I guess the purple on the map is Louisville Fire going out into the suburban area in the half-mile buffer. The blue area is suburban fire coming into Louisville Fire's jurisdiction in that half-mile as well. So, and one of the things that we did and the committee did was actually go out and meet with each department to make sure that the buffer zone aligned with what their response was. For instance, if they had a subdivision where everything in it but 3 or 4 houses would have been excluded, they went ahead and moved the buffer zone to accommodate that. So it makes sense.
It was flexible in that way then.
Yes.
Thank you all for covering this. Congratulations again.